Welcome to Hot Takes, brought to you by 50cupstea.com, where united we sip, discuss, and learn. Join us as we dive into the hottest takes on culture, business trends, and the threads that bind us. Get ready for inspiring stories, candid conversations, and a fresh perspective on living a healthy, fulfilled life. Grab your cup and tune in. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Once again, we are here with Jim Baker, who is an entrepreneur. He's an author, a very successful guy, very smart guy, owner of 50 Cups Tea Company, which brings you Hot Takes. And this is the Wisdom Series, Jim. And first of all, it's good to see you again. We're getting close to the holidays. How you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Good. I noticed the tea is kind of a holiday colorish.
It is. It's our traditional refresher tea. And since it's a little bit unusually warm, nothing crazy. So the climatologists can't go nuts. It's a little nice. It's beautiful out today.
Yes, yeah.
But I thought we'd go with a little iced refresher today, which is a hibiscus blend tea, not caffeinated, and obviously very good for you.
It tastes wonderful. It really does. I know we're anxious to get to our guests, and this is the Wisdom Series. Maybe you could just kind of set us up going from that perspective. Why the Wisdom Series? What do you hope to gain? And who's our guest?
Yeah, for the few listeners out there that have been watching us for a while, we've embarked on a wisdom tour, so to speak, where we talk to people that have spent a lot of their life, a long life, gaining wisdom and other experiences that we want to share with the audience. So today I'm honored to introduce Marty Hartwell. And Marty is a former neighbor of mine in Cary. He's a successful entrepreneur. He owns a very successful floor covering business. And I think he probably got a little nervous when we first moved in because he was already there. And we had bought the house behind him, which at the time had a nice woods buffer, trees, leaves, bushes, things like that. And we had bought the only piece of land. It was kind of a slice of pie, but it was a half an acre. And we had 2 kids at that point in time. And naturally, the swing set goes back there. Then as the kids get a little older, we're like, you know what? We got to clear out the rest of the woods to put a mini soccer field in, baseball, whatever, with a soccer goal that now backed up to his house. And I'm thinking, okay, Marty might be a little bit upset with this thing, but he ended up being one of our best neighbors of all time. And we've been friends for the last 32 years or so.
37 years. It's been a long time.
It's my honor to have you here today. So
thanks.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, like I say, we met, 30 years ago, but a little bit on my background. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, back in the day. And after a year, my dad took a job in Detroit. And so we moved up to Detroit, and I had a pretty normal childhood, typical stuff. My dad was a tremendous influence on me. He had a tremendous work ethic, and that's kind of rubbed off on me and so forth. But he started, he was working for a company called Carbeloy. And when you're in Detroit, you work with the cars, with manufacturing. That's it. It's like down here, it's all tech. But back in those days, the company was called Carbeloy, and they made a alloy, which is called silicon carbide, which is basically stronger than diamond, but it's used to machine materials, the materials in automotive transmissions, axles, engines, and so forth. And he worked with that company for a while, and he thought, you know what? I can make these tools myself. So he built a garage in back of our house, and I remember digging a trench, which was probably about 200 foot long, about 3 foot deep for the wire to get the power to the garage from our basement. And that was a little arduous task. But anyways, it was a lot of fun. So Dad started the work out there, and my mom and I, during the day, we would prep some of the tools that he would do as far as fabricating. And then he'd come home from work, and he'd work till midnight and make them. And slow but sure, he got going, and then he built a building and started his business. Wow. And worked. I didn't see much of him. He worked a lot of hours. So the company really developed. Of course, in those days, then I went into high school, and typical high school. I went to a Catholic high school and had a good time and wasn't really too studious. But at any rate, after I got out of high school, of course, in those days, where are you going to go to college? So, and what are you going to do? So I went to a college down in Cincinnati, Xavier, Jesuit school, and thought I'd be a doctor. And that really didn't work out. The smarts weren't there. My roommate was getting stuff done about an hour before me, and I was struggling. So I lasted about a semester, and then I thought, well, what am I going to do here? Well, am I going to stay in pre-med and really struggle with this? In those days, you had two choices. It was either business or medicine. That was it. And nobody gave you guidance or didn't have a counselor. So you really were on your own, just making decisions. So I went back for the second semester, and I thought, I don't want to be a bookkeeper or accounting. So I quit. So I went back home, and my dad says, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know what I want to do. I was a typical kid, 19 years old, not knowing what's going on. So he said, if you want, he says, you can work out in the shop for a while. And I said, okay. So that was like in February or March. So I started working with my father out in the shop for a while. And Labor Day weekend, it was a Tuesday morning, and at the coffee break at 9:00, my dad came up to me and he says, as of Friday, you're fired. So I said, oh, okay. He said, either you go back to school or do something, but you're not staying in here. You got to do something. Well, in those days, the draft was available. Yeah, we had to do 2 years or go the not the OSTZ, but the National Guard route. So I said, well, I'll go for 2 years. I'll get that out of the way. So I went right in the city there. They had the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines. So I thought, I'm going to be a Marine. So I go into the Marine, talk to the guy, and he says, yeah, we'll take you. You got to go do 3 years. And I thought, oh, man, wait a minute. I don't know if I want to do 3 years, but I only have to do 2. So I dropped out of the Army place, and he says, 2 years. I says, got a deal. So I joined Uncle Sam's Army, did my basic at Fort Leonard Wood. And while I was down there, all during the classes, we were in a little seminar one day about how to clean your rifle and everything. And this guy walks in with jump boots on and all kind of paraphernalia on his uniform. And he said, how many of you guys want to be paratroopers? He says, it's worth $50 a month in your pay. So I raised my hand. I figured, hey, $50? Why not? So ended
Easily motivated, Marty.
Yeah. Money's great motivator. So anyway, hell, it's 19 years old. You're just footloose, fancy free. I didn't care. So anyway, I ended up going, ironically, down to Fort Bragg in January of that year. Did all the rest of my duties down at Bragg. Had really, it was a good experience. I think every guy in the United States should do some time in the service. I think it's good, it's patriotic, and I think you owe to your country. But at any rate, so I finished up my service at Bragg and everything, and I ended up doing 23 jumps, which was great. And I'd go out of an airplane tomorrow if I could, but they won't let me.
Were you ever deployed?
Huh?
Did you get deployed?
The closest we got to deployment was there was a conflict going on in Lebanon, and I don't remember too many of the details, but they had us out on a tamarack there about 5 in the morning, and we were there till about 9 at night, and they finally called us off. We never went. They were going to probably parachute us in, and I don't know what would happen. But no, I never saw active duty. I was fortunate in that respect. So got out of the service, came back home, and again, the big problem. What do you do? First turning point in life. Had no college degree, which wasn't critical back then, but I didn't know what the heck to do, So my dad said to me, he says, Marty, he said, I could use some help in sales. And he says, you want to give it a try? And I says, Dad, I'll tell you what. let me try it for a year. And if it works, great. So talking about a quick education system, he says, okay, next week we're going up to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, talk to some of my reps up there. And we're going to go down to Caterpillar in Peoria, which was one of our accounts, and so forth. So that was like a week and a half stint. So we get back home. He says, okay, you ready to go? And I says, oh, the only thing that helped me was that I knew what we were making. Other than the sales or anything, I had no clue, you know. So I remember my first call. It was up in a Chevrolet plant up in Bay City. I remember the buyer's name. In those days, what the companies like my dad would do is you'd go into the purchasing department, and there were different buyers for different products, and you'd go to the reception desk and you say, hey, I want to see Mr. So-and-so. He's the guy that sends out the deals for carbide cutting tools and so forth. And so you went in, you chatted with them and hoped that they would send you quotes and then keep it going from there. So I went into this fella and I walked up and I said, hi, I'm Marty Hartwell, Dual Tool Company, and blah, blah, blah. And got talking and he says, hey, hold off for a minute. I said, what? He said, how long you been in this business? I said, I'll tell you what. I said, you're my first call, Mr. Crawford. He starts laughing. He says, I kind of thought you were green, you know. But anyway, that started it. And I gradually got my feet on the ground and started developing accounts that we didn't have. I went to different places in the country and over a period of time, knew what I was doing and everything, and called on these buyers, and worked out really, really well. I was happy, and I was doing a lot of traveling. I drove like 60, 70,000 miles a year back and forth, and I covered Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, New York, and then I flew into the East Coast to the aircraft engine, Pratt & Whitney and Sikorsky and those places, did a lot of business with them. I developed those accounts. So I was pretty successful, and I was a little cocky, but I had good relationships with my buyers. I was always up front with them and backed up what we were going to do. We always, if the guy said, you know, how's your delivery system, blah, 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 I would say, hey, we're running 3 weeks right now. We're running 4 weeks. That's the best we can do. But that integrity, I built up a lot of integrity with the buyers. And I think that was a key point for me being successful in the sales end of it. So over a period of years, my dad at that time was aging a little bit, and he had asthma very, very bad. And he decided to get out of the company and go down to Florida where he got relief. So my uncle and my brother was working out at a plant managing the plant, and my uncle was running the front end of it. And after a few years, my uncle, great guy, but he was just tough to deal with in a way. Finally, my brother and I said, "Hey, why don't you retire and we'll let Larry and I run it?" And he says, "No," he says, "I don't think so." He said, "I think maybe we should just sell the company." I said, "Oh," and I'm thinking, here I am, I'm home now. I got 2 kids and everything, and he's going to sell the company. Now, what do I do, So it ended up, we did sell the company. My brother left. I stayed on with the new owner for a couple of years, and the typical change when companies are bought and sold is you lose your territory, lose your wages. And that happened to me. I thought, well, I'll be a good guy. So I worked with this fella for a couple of years. And finally, I said, "Hey, I said, I'm bringing in a ton of money for you. You're making money on these accounts." I said, "I need to get back up there." I said, "I don't want the moon and the stars, but give me something to work with." So he said, well, we're doing capital equipment and we're going to do this and do this. And he said, maybe I can up your bonus a little bit. And I said, okay. So I kind of went along, and I think I was getting to the point where, hey, I don't think this is going to go anywhere. And I'm going down instead of up and not even holding my ground. So I got thinking and everything, and my brother was living down here in Raleigh. And he says, Marty, come on down to Raleigh. I says, man, I got two kids going, another one going to be going to college. I said, I can't just come down there and retire. I got to make some money. So I found out about Floor Coverings International, which was a franchise company. So I went to their open house day and everything, and it was in Atlanta. And they're giving all the information on a company and this and that. And I thought, man, I can sell carpet. Well, so I signed up, and we stayed in Michigan for a year because my last son I wanted him to finish his senior year in high school. I didn't want to pull him. So we moved down here in 93, and I started the business. Well, that was definitely a real leader for me. I was losing ground very fast, going through the funds. I darn near went belly up. Yeah, I was pretty close to it. And then finally, a couple things happened, and I started to get the business turning around. But during that time, I actually was working two jobs. I worked for my brother. He had a precision tune franchise, a couple of them in the area. I worked the counter during the day, and then after we were done, I'd put my logo shirt on, go out and make calls at night. I worked 7 days a week, 24/7 for about a year and a half. And finally, I was getting burned out. And so finally I said to myself, you know what? I came down here to get this business. This is what I'm going to do and get it started. So through different things that happened, I finally got the business going. And I've been doing it for 31 years now. And when I look back, as painful as everything was, it was the right decision. Because after I left, the owner sold the company about 2 years after I left, and he ran it into the ground in about a year and a half. So it was the right move at the right time for me. So it worked out pretty good.
Well, if I may ask, just listening to your history, if I were taking notes, I'm going, seems you go back to your childhood. I mean, it was normal, yes, but you didn't have a father around because he gave you the work ethic.
Yeah.
He also gave you the boot in the butt, Marty, and said, go do something, right?
Yeah.
That's some love, don't you think?
Yeah.
As you look over your shoulder at your life, I mean, how did all those things play out so that you ended up where you are today?
Well, I think he just instilled in me, he was an example. And he would say something, and I knew what he meant, and he didn't elaborate. Like in high school, he would let me. I had my license, and I said, "Hey, Dad, can I use the car tonight?" Yeah. So sometimes I kind of ran 3 nights. We'd run up and down Woodward Avenue, which was the thing to do. We hit the drive-ins and all that
cruising.
stuff.
Yeah,
cruising.
Yep.
And he'd say, "Hey, boy, you were out quite a bit this week," and that was the hint that lay low. You don't do this every night, So he was real subtle in some ways, and then sometimes he could be a bear, But most of the time, my dad and I had a tremendous relationship, and I am really today, and I get emotional when I talk about this. But my dad, if it wasn't for my dad, I don't know what I've been doing today. He influenced my life 90%. Because he had number one, I had the privilege of working with him. So I had a job opportunity, and just what he did and how hard he worked, I did the same thing. And my boys have developed that same work ethic because I think your kids feed off what you are. If you're a good parent, and they observe. You don't have to tell them anything, but they observe. And I've got tremendous relationship with are with my boys, and they're hardworking and they're all successful in their own way. So it's worked out well. I have no complaints.
So I have to ask, when the business was sold, who got the proceeds? Did your uncle and your father get the proceeds?
Well, no, we had some stock, so my brother and I did get some money from the sales. Yeah.
Did your dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We did.
Okay.
Did that.
Good. I want to make sure you sold for a profit.
Oh yeah. No, we didn't lose any money. No, we didn't lose any money. But it was a tough experience there. You know, you have a lot of doubts and you don't know where you're going to be going, and you say, "Oh man," a lot of sleepless nights. And of course, coming down here when I started the business, I had a rough 3 years. It was, and that's when you guys were living behind us there too.
Maybe that's why you didn't care that I cleared out the.
No, I didn't care about anything. All I did is get up, work, and go home, take a shower, get up the next day, and do the same doggone thing. You know, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. You got to have discipline and drive, and you have to have a couple breaks, obviously, but.
You got to recognize those breaks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, you got to, you do. So like I say, I've been fortunate, and I've got a nice business going with my floor coverings. I've got a good reputation. I've got over a couple hundred Google 5 stars. And, and that today, that's what people, when they go online, they want to see your reviews, at least to get you in the door. You don't get every order, but it gets you in, it gets you in the door. So it works out well.
That had to be difficult. I mean, you moved to an area you weren't familiar with.
I came down
then you
here
got to knock on
cold
doors
turkey.
and sell.
Came down here cold turkey.
How'd you do that? I mean, what was some of the first things you had to do to establish this?
Number one, my brother's wife was in real estate. So thank you for her. She knew about the sub going in where we're at in Preston. And she says, "Marty, this is a perfect spot for you, because when I bought the franchise, I bought Cary and part of Raleigh and so forth."
Wow. Yeah.
So that was a good, I had a little help from them because they'd been down here. So they knew some doctors, they knew this and that. So it wasn't like coming in cold turkey. But so when we moved in, that was a big help, for us getting into that area.
Was it tough with you and your wife being in a new location, and your kids maybe are still, some of them might be still being in Michigan or elsewhere?
The kids, my daughter finished college when we moved down in August of '93. She finished college in January of '94. So she was with us, and then my two boys then they moved in with us. And so I had all 3 kids there for a while. And then one by one, they filled it out. The boys started school. Brian, who is my youngest, he started out he was going to Michigan State, and then he transferred out, and he ended up going to Syracuse. And that lasted for about a year because I said, "Hey, I'm not paying this tuition unless you go out." He was a good lacrosse player. He played goalie in lacrosse. And I said, "Hey, you got come on down here to North Carolina. I'm not paying that tuition at Syracuse." And I didn't have the money,
Right.
And then my other son, Matthew, he came down. He went right after high school, he went to Alabama for a year. And I says, "Hey, it's time to come back." So both the guys finished up. One went to UNC, and the other one finished at State. So that's how that developed. And then my daughter came down here. Eventually, she met a fella, and they got married, and luckily they're still in the area here. So that worked out really well. Yeah.
Well, I'm just curious, how do you, when you see the world today versus what it was when you were a kid and how you grew up, and it's changed a lot, hasn't it? And I'm just wondering if you have any, since it is the wisdom segment, wisdom for some of the folks who might be watching and listening who are maybe just starting out, young parents, and the relationship you establish with your children. How do you earn their respect? How do you set the example that needs to be set?
My wife and I, my philosophy was treat them as adults. And that's what I really did with the kids. I let them run. I said, "Hey, I let them borrowed the car. And I know they were doing stuff behind my back, which all kids do, especially the boys. Yeah, it's kids. But I treated them like adults. And they basically were pretty dependable type kids. They did their homework. They all went to like an all-boys school, and my daughter went to all-girls school up there and in the area where we lived, Brother Rice. And they did their studies. They played 3 sports: football, hockey, lacrosse, all through high school. So that was our social life. I mean, we just went from season to season, and that was great. It was great. And but I guided them, and if they got out of hand a little bit, I'd chastise them. But really, I let them run. And they turned out fine. So I guess I don't know if there's a right and wrong way to raise your kids. I did what was natural. I just
Do you think you let them run and then they ran because they knew there were boundaries?
They probably did. Yeah, they knew where to stop. Yeah. I mean, they did the hellacious things that kids do, but but nothing bad. Nothing bad.
I see today, to Bill's point, a lot of parents they want to be your friend,
right?
Like they want to be your Instagram buddy. They want to be, they want to be part of your entire life, right? Yeah. And so inevitably, if you do have a kid that does get in trouble a lot, then there's no consequences, and then I don't know how that is makes that kid successful. Let's say when they're in their 20s and 30s, when they can't have mom or dad hanging around with them anymore.
Yeah. My guys did everything basically on their own. They studied, they went, they got their college educations, and they say that they were influenced by me. So because they saw how hard I worked, because I was gone in the mornings. We left all the same time, about 7:30. I'd be gone, and with the sports, it was pretty hectic as far as all having dinners together, but spent a lot of time with them and their friends with the sports. I think sports were a real cement to keep the family and the kids on the right track. Mm-hmm. They have, with sports, you got to have discipline. And I told the kids, hey, whatever you do, you sign up, you finish. There's no getting out. So if you don't think you're going to make it, don't sign up. But they were all played sports. They enjoyed it, and they were in a good environment. The all-boys school, Catholic school, and great education for the kids, and that influenced their life also. That gave them a base, to where they're doing today.
I'm assuming it influenced you as well. You have the Catholic background.
Yeah.
Went to the school and all that as well. And how much did you think that played into who you are and now who your kids are?
Well, it gives you keep your morals up, I'm always hopeful that my faith has given me a lot of got me through some of the conflicts that I've had. I think you have to have faith, and I don't care what type of religion you have, but you have to have some type of faith, and that's helped me immensely. And I don't know. I just there's just, for me, I'm an easygoing guy. I don't get rattled too much. Very seldom do I get rattled, but when I do get rattled, but it's rare. It's rare. I'm pretty even keeled, and I think that's helped me get through a lot of situations and think it out and relax and get your marbles together and go on. Forth.
You look like 50. How old are you? Can I ask?
88.
Damn, you're looking good for
88 is great.
So. Obviously, you talked about religion maybe grounding you, but he also has been married for how long?
56 years.
To a wonderful woman, Cecil.
Yeah, great job.
And
God bless her. She has to
Obviously,
put up with me.
Yeah, I mean, she probably had a lot to do with being the glue in the family, right? With your kids and everything else.
Yeah,
So,
hey, it's a two-way street. Yeah.
tell us how you got married, how you got met, and kind of give us a little background on her.
She'll laugh when she sees this one. Well, in the day, like I say, in my bachelor days, we lived a life, say, in Detroit, and so I had a boat and did a lot of boating. Well, every big holiday, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, we go down to a place in Lake Erie called Put in the Bay. And it was a great place to go because, number one, it was a crazy weekend. They had a winery on one island, and at 10 o'clock in the morning, people were drunk. It was nuts. But we went down there and to meet chicks, whatever. It was just a good meeting spot. So I remember it was in 68, Memorial Day 68. I was on a boat, and it was typical Michigan weather. It was like 60 degrees, and it was drizzly and everything. And one of my buddies was with me, and I said, "Hey, should we go to the bay for the weekend or not?" I said, "Man, the weather looks terrible." He says, "Yeah, Marty, let's go." I said, "Okay." So we took off and got down to the bay and tied up our boat and everything. And down the dock, I see these 3 gals going down. So typical Marty Hartwell attitude. I'm up on the flying bridge of the boat, and I says, "Hey," I said, "I like that one in the polka dot pants." I said, "That's mine for the weekend. I'm going to wolf her," Typical guys,
Yeah.
So anyway, we closed up the boat. It was drizzling. It was still lousy, and a couple of my other guys had boats. So my buddy and I, we got out of mine and we went down to his boat, and Sissel, her name's Maureen, but we call her Sissel. She hates Maureen. So Sissel and her girlfriends were there, and we got talking and everything, and just kind of, just had, typical meeting and so forth. We later in the day, and this is a lingo she always reminds me of, it's about 4 in the afternoon or so, and she said, is there church here? I said, "Yeah." I said, "We'll go to the magic show." I says, "It's at 5 o'clock. She says, "Oh, is there a circus here?" I says, No. I says, "The magic show." "Oh, okay." So we ended up going to church, which was great, and all of us were Catholics. So we all went. And then afterwards, well, what do? You go to the bar. And she was only 20. And I said, "Have you got fake ID?" And she says, "Yeah." I says, "Does it work well?" And she said, "I hope so." I says, "Hey, listen, when you're with me, don't worry. I'll get you in." So we get up to this bar, at they call it the Roundhouse, and we're in line, and guy looks at me and says, "I'll go on through." And she was scared to death that she'd get booted out. Anyhow, I saw her the next day, which was like, I think Monday, and she was heading back with her girlfriends. And of course we headed back. And I thought, well, when I asked her, I says, "Hey, is your number?" She says, "It's in the phone book. My dad's Dr. Glenn." That was it, And I says, "Oh, okay. You're not going to give me that way." So I figured, well, what the hell? So I get home and sort of thought, I'll give her a call. And I was at the point, really, I had met a lot of bimbos.
Yeah.
I was 30. I was 31 years old. I met all kind of flaky gals, and I wasn't really in any hurry to get married or anything. I didn't care. I said, hell, I was having a good time. I'd ski in the wintertime and go out west with my friends, and we'd ski out there, and we were having just a great old time, boat in the summertime. I wasn't worried about it. All my friends were buying homes, and they were married and getting kids and everything, and I was footloose and fancy free. So anyway, I called her later that week, and I said, "Hey, look, there's something going on here at the yacht club." I said, it's Monday. I said, how'd you like to go?" "Oh," she says, "I can't make it." I said, "Oh, all right, okay." So I said, "Yeah, okay." So I called her again about a week later, and I said, "There's something going on," whatever it was, and I said, It was for a Sunday. That's what it was. Who dates on a Sunday afternoon? I'm figuring, So I call her and she says, I can't make it, but she says, I'll take a rain check. And that saved her. Because had she not said that, I would have never called her back. I mean, that's
Lucky
just the
for
way
her,
I felt.
Marty?
That's just the way I was. I wasn't, I wasn't there. So anyway, after about 2 or 3 dates, I knew. I mean, this was the gal for me. I was hit, but I was 10 years older than her, so I didn't want to come on too strong, and so we dated during the summer, and I was real close, and gave her a ring in October, and I said, well, let's get married. She said, oh no, she has 7 girls and a boy in the family, good Irish family.
Yes.
So she said, oh, no, we have to wait till spring, to get the wedding going. So we got married in the spring, and best thing ever happened to me. I'm blessed. I got a great gal. She's had to put up with my garbage, but,
So was she busy or was she just testing you?
I think she kind of liked me, but she wasn't really sure, But after, I think during the summertime, she knew too, that we were.
I'm saying when you first asked her out and she said she was busy, and then you asked her out again.
Oh yeah. I think. What was happening is that there were a lot of graduations going on, and it was right around that time of the year. So she was tied up with the family and the neighborhood and everything like that. So it was a legit turn down.
Okay.
But I didn't realize that. I figured, hey man, if she says no, I'm not going to take a strikeout. So anyway, so that was the best thing that happened to me. It was really, really the greatest.
Here's a hot take on some 50 Cups tea.
Our English breakfast tea is known to be great for body and heart health as it contains polyphenol antioxidants, which help lower inflammation, and it also promotes heart health and is full of micronutrients like potassium, which helps nerve contractions, magnesium and phosphorus help bone health, and folate, which helps the production of red blood cells.
Visit 50cupstea.com to find out more.
Well, you've been through a lot, though. I mean, right, you had ups and downs. I mean, some pretty scary
we've had some hard times.
How
And
did you make it work through that?
she hung in, never complained. Like the move down here was tough for her. Probably a lot tougher for her than me because all her family was up in Detroit. So she came down here, and the only one that was down here was my brother and his wife. And so, but she said, hey, if that's what we have to do, let's do it. And so she hung in there. And it was
no magic secret to keep together.
No.
Just that love you felt stayed with you.
Yeah. And marriage is a two-way street. We've never had competition, and I let her do what she wants to do, and she lets me do what I want to do. We have no problems. I'm glad. I'm happily married.
And when you were struggling with the business down here, did she go out and take a job also?
Yeah. She worked for food and insurance. She worked at Hannaford's, which was eventually bought by Lowe's. Yeah, she ran the cheese department there. She worked for 2 or 3 years there while we were struggling and so forth. And then she, once I got things going, then she retired. And the reason she retired is that she was working, really, she was head of the cheese department, but her hands she had bad arthritis in her hands, and she couldn't cut the cheese, as they say, And so she finally had to get out and on that. But by then I was, I basically had things going decent that we were getting by.
I should have thought of her when I started at 50 Cups. She could have ran the retail.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I messed that up.
You did mess that up.
Yeah. It's tough starting business, man, and it's with you 24/7. I mean, I'm thinking about the business all the time, and I'm glad when we moved down here that my kids were older, because it would have been very difficult for me to give them the attention had they been like in high school when I was down here, to get to their sporting events and things like that. I wouldn't have been able to do it, so that time cycle worked out well. And when I was in sales, when the guys were, in high school, I would work my schedules so I could get back for their hockey games or their lacrosse games or whatever. I'd maybe finish up in Indianapolis at 1:00, and I'd wheel right back to Detroit for the hockey game that night or something like that. I juggled my schedule around their schedules, and luckily I had free reign on my sales, so I knew I could do what I wanted to and work in that direction. That was very, very, very helpful, having that freedom and flexibility.
So from a sales perspective, you've been in sales pretty much your whole life.
Yeah.
What's the secret? Well, if you're giving advice to other people that are in sales, what do you think?
I'll tell you, be yourself. You are what you are. When I go into a home and I meet somebody, I know in about 3 minutes whether I've got vibes with them or not. Like you can feel it, and I've been able to sense that out, and it's proved pretty doggone accurate. Now, even sometimes when you do get the vibes, you never get the order, but at least you've got a good relationship going, But I think you have to just be yourself. Don't flaunt or just be natural. Mm-hmm. And I kid with my customers, and I treat them like I knew them from day one. When I walk in the house, I'll ask them about the kids or the dogs, or what's going on here, and why are you doing this? I try to get as friendly as I can, but that's just me.
Right.
That's just me. You are what you are inside, and that's hard to teach if you don't have it.
Well, having been a customer of many folks like you, you instantly do pick up whether someone's genuine or not.
Yeah.
And I think that you mentioned integrity, and I think consumers do look for that, and they can sense that if someone's giving them a talking point for a sales pitch or not.
Oh, yeah. I try to make a profit, a good profit, but I never cheat people. If I tell them I'm going to give them this carpet, this padding, this particular whatever we do, I do it. And if I make a mistake, which I've done on quoting jobs and forgetting something, they still get it, and I don't cheat them. I give them I give them what I promised, and I've got a good reputation because of that. And also too, when I work with my guys that do my installation for me, most of my guys have been working with me over 15 years. I've got a great relationship with them. I treat them like I'd like to be treated. They come to me and say, "Hey, Marty, man, look at, we had this. I said, "How much do you need?" "Oh, could you give me another 100? I don't even question it. Here's another 100. So that's you got to treat people right. And my dad used to do that, and I picked that up from my dad because when he was first starting a business, I remember he would throw parties at our house down in the basement. And hell, I was only maybe 10, 12 years old back in those days. But he would always take care of the guys, and at Christmas he would give them bonuses. And if the company wasn't making money, he'd still take something out of the bank and give them something for Christmas, and take care of his employees. And that's why he had good employees, and that led to his success. Yeah.
So just from a market perspective on flooring these days, is wall-to-wall carpeting still in? Is it out?
Oh, yeah.
Is hardwoods in? Like, what's going on?
No. Oh, carpet's still king.
Carpet's
king. Yeah, carpet. For
not
me,
in the bathroom, though, right?
It's king, huh?
Not in the bathroom anymore, though, right?
No, not in the bathrooms. But yeah, carpet that's my biggest selling product. Mm-hmm. The big other secondary product now is what they call the luxury vinyl planks, the LVP stuff. That's a hot item. And hardwood, I don't do a tremendous. Hardwood's a lot more expensive now. It's gone up quite a bit, and so forth. But carpet's still the big item. Most people still go with carpet.
Yeah. How do you stay so healthy? You look like your age. You're energetic. You're excited. You're moving
thank
around.
God I got good genes or whatever the guy upstairs gave me. I don't know.
How long did your father and mother live?
They were 86.
Okay.
So I've outlived those guys.
Yep.
But I've always been kind of active. I used to run a lot, and till I ran 3 marathons, all that crazy stuff. But I've always been active, athletic wise, and That's been good. And now what I do, I stopped running about 9 years ago because my Achilles was giving me a lot of trouble. And so now I swim. I swim. I try to swim at least 4 or 5 days a week. That's my
Sometimes
exercise.
I walk out to the mailbox.
Yeah.
Well, you're pretty active.
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah, I keep active, and I don't have the gas I used to have. I'll tell you that much. I mean, Jim knows my yard, and I created a jungle out in my yard, and I used to be able to go all day and take care of it. Now it's about 2 hours, and that's it for the day. That's age. Can't help that.
Still involved in the business?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still. Yeah,
Does that
I'm
keep
still
you young?
working.
I mean, working and doing that?
Oh yeah. I just made a call this morning on somebody over in North Raleigh on a commercial job, and I'm busy pretty much every day. The nice thing now, tomorrow I'm taking off because I got a couple things to do, but that's the nice thing about being self-employed.
Yeah.
You can work your schedule and do, and if I want to take a week vacation, I just take off, and nobody knows where you're at today. It's all full, and I just call them and say, hey, I'm on vacation. I'll call you when I get back if you can wait. If not, it is what it is.
Right.
You got to have time off,
Yeah, and when we moved to a different part of the bigger neighborhood, he would still run, and I'd see him usually any time of day. You didn't really discriminate. He tried to run in the evenings, I think, for the most part.
Well, or early in the morning.
Yeah. But sometimes he's rocking down the road at 95-degree heat, and I'm like, that's impressive.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
I get my stuff done before like 7:30 every day. I want to make sure it's in the coolest part of the day.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah, what I try to do now is I try to set my day up. I try to keep 11 to 12 open, and that's when I swim.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of works out so I can make my appointments early first thing in the morning or after lunch, and that works out pretty nice. And I do that. That's the good thing about being self-employed. You can call your shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's going to fire me.
So what's the exit strategy for the business?
Pardon?
Do you want to sell the business someday, or do you want to hand it off?
I don't know what I would do if I retired. I'm volunteer or something, but the good thing about this business is that I'm active, I'm using my brain, I'm meeting people, having fun. Most of the time it's fun. You meet some people that obviously that's true in life that you don't care for, and you get days where everything goes wrong. You have the hellacious days, but there's always tomorrow, and it keeps cooking. So it's good. It keeps me going, and I think that's part of why I feel so good, because I've been active. I'm not sitting around. I think if you sit around and not do anything, you get sedentary and you start deteriorating.
I agree.
Yeah,
I do.
You got to keep moving. You got to keep moving, and I don't do as heavy as I used to. I used to swim longer. Now I cut the time back a little bit, but I'm still getting good exercise, and that's all I need to do, and that's just part of me. I mean, I have to do it. I can't sit around. I get antsy.
That'd be tough to do.
Yeah.
Should add the 50-cup tea to your diet as well. It's very healthy.
Yeah, I was telling Jim, I'm
trying to help you here, Jim.
Yeah, I this is okay.
See, he's honest. See, this is
okay.
why he
Everybody
does
we
well.
talk to that's over 80, coffee is the main drink.
That's my main thing. But I was telling Jim, in the winter months, like if I'm working in the office or something, I'll get a hot tea or something,
Right.
and I'll do that quite regularly during the winter months. That's just a nice afternoon kind of tonic for you, and it's great. I enjoy that. But most of the time, I have 1 cup in the morning of coffee, and that's it. After that, I don't touch it.
All right, so we're going to put you to the test.
Okay.
Tell us how many grandkids you have.
Okay, I got 9 grandkids.
And their names.
Okay. All right, I'll start with my youngest. We have Michaela, Mateo, Malia. That's my son Brian's, and they live in Las Vegas. The next batch is Matthew, my second son. He has Landon, Willie.
And your third grandson is?
Andy. And then I have Jennifer, my daughter. We have Henry and Meredith and Allison. Yeah. Allison's 26. She's the oldest. The oldest one.
Wow, she's 26.
Huh?
Wow, it's some family you have.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah. And the nice thing about it, Jim, is that I love to see the kids, and the kids love to see us. And boy, that's a good combo to have.
Oh,
and your
absolutely.
grandkids like you. I never had my grandparents, like I was 10 and they were all passed away. So I don't remember much about them, but these kids at least had because I've been living longer, that they can have a relationship and say, oh, I remember Papa, I remember him, this and that. So that's good. But everybody wants to get, my boys and my daughter, we all want to, we love each other equally. We're always together, and that's you can't buy that.
Yeah,
can't buy. I'm blessed with that, with a good family. That's just the greatest. It really is.
I was going to ask, in your life, what's the most important thing, but I think you answered it.
Yeah, that is.
I
If you got family, you got everything. Family and health, you don't need anything else.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the Marty Hartwell philosophy.
Real quick, what do you do to relax?
What do I do to relax? I don't know if I really do relax, to be honest with you. The only time if you want to call it relax, is after I finish my laps at Preston Pool in the summertime. I lay down on the chase lounge and fall asleep for about 15 minutes. But yeah, I don't really relax that much. I'm always doing something, But I mean, it's not working, but I'm always putzing around. I'm so used to doing stuff. I mean, when it gets like, sometimes it gets slow in my business, and I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do today? I'm thinking, what's going on? So yeah, vacation wise, see our kids. That's our trips. Yeah. No Caribbean, no nothing like that. We go see our kids. That's all I care about.
Jim, still mowing your lawn? That might be a good time to sit in the lawn chair.
Yeah.
That's all I'm
Well,
saying.
I can almost see through there now. Yeah, but the new owner's got a guy comes out and does the whole the backyard all the time. He comes out there Sunday about 8:00 in the morning.
Oh my gosh, that's not a good time.
Yeah, he's out there in the summertime. But,
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Anything on your mind from a hot take perspective? Anything driving you a little frustrated with these days with society or anything like that?
Well,
that's apolitical, by the way.
Politics. God, you never win talking about politics or religion. But the thing that really bugs me today, I think, is just the attitude of a lot of people, and I'm a little concerned. I think a lot of people just don't realize how great our country is.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. These younger kids, I don't think they've got a grasp that how lucky they are to be in this country. I mean, we got our faults and things are screwed up, and there's nasty politicians and there's scandals and all that sort of stuff. But half these kids don't know who the president is. They are, a lot of them, well, what can you do for me? Instead of, getting out there and doing something. That's not a good thing, but that's because older people talk that way, see the younger generation. Maybe the generation before me thought the same of us. I don't know. But that's one thing that kind of bothers me. I hate to say, I'm a patriotic guy. I love this country. I think it's the greatest country in the world in spite of our faults. I'd certainly like to change a lot of things, but that'll never happen. But I get annoyed with the politicians because I think some of them are really a waste, but it is what it is. You got to deal with it. But we're still better than anybody else in the world.
I agree.
Still the greatest.
I also want to congratulate you because you've lived 88 years.
Yeah.
And this whole interview, he didn't say back in my day.
It's true.
Because I would have. Because I just think generations, my generation, your generation, we grew up differently. And it's not this generation's fault, really, because things have changed in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But the work ethic, the integrity.
That's it.
You know, taking risks, having faith, all these things seem to
They've deteriorated.
They have.
They've
I think so.
deteriorated. Yeah, there's still a lot of good kids out there doing good things. But I agree, definitely, you've hit it on the head. The values or the morals, whatever word you want to use, have deteriorated. They're not like they used to be. You know, my one son that he interviews a lot of kids for his job. He works for Enterprise and they're leasing, and he says a lot of these before they're doing recruitment differently now, but a lot of these kids, they come in, they just wear a polo top for an interview, and they'll say, "Well, what kind of salary am I going to get?" Before anything goes on.
Yeah,
I mean, where are you going to go with something like that? You know, you got to earn your way. You got to earn your way. But a lot of the kids, and I think a lot of that is because they weren't brought up right. It's the parents.
Mm-hmm.
The parents got to put, you've done a great job with your kids. I think I've done a good job with my kids. I did what was natural. I'm not bragging about it, but I've been lucky. But if they have to, they got to get out and do it. You know, that's the world today. It's a cruel world. You got to get out and hustle today if you're going to make it. It's a lot different than when I was brought up. It's harder too. It's a lot more effort for the kids today. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
What a great guest.
Yeah.
Even though he doesn't particularly care for your tea, Jim. I think he's
just a minute. We'll make peace.
Yes.
Let's make peace.
Cheers.
Knoxville Biscuits.
But I do love, this is a good tasting tea. I'm just joking. This is wonderful stuff.
Yeah. This has been great. I hope I haven't bored you with all my stuff.
No, it's been great.
No, it's very interesting.
So just to conclude,
we
always ask our guests for the 5 tips of life that you want to
I don't know
if
I've got 5, but I'll tell you, number 1 is discipline, empathy, the golden rule, as corny as it sounds, do unto others as you have them do unto you. When you're down in the dumps, be positive. That's 4. And those pretty much are the things I live by.
Excellent.
Good advice, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to your point earlier about the deterioration, and just listen to your story, your Catholic faith has been very important to you.
Definitely.
And I think it seems like what you described growing up, Cecil, the Irish family, lots of kids, asking to go to mass on a party night, Saturday night. You know, that's not part of society anymore now.
No.
And I think if you are not grounded in God or some other spiritual, whatever you may believe, because there's a purpose to life. And if you're purposeless, then things deteriorate. And I think ultimately, if the purpose is to really be a good person, is to love God and to hopefully live in eternity when you pass, I mean, that's a big purpose, to make sure in life you're staying positive and you're doing things you need to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No question about it. Yeah. You got to have the morals and the good faith, you know, and it's discipline. I mean, it's like going to mass. I mean, my kids, unfortunately, sometimes they go, sometimes they don't. They don't have the same feel I have today. I don't say anything to them because eventually they'll maybe come around, you know. But
right. But you, in their defense, you're a hard act to follow. You pick up chicks and take them to church. That hasn't happened for a while, Mark.
Yeah, well, that was back in the day.
Yeah, I know.
I stole your phrase. Yeah, it was fun. But like I say, I'm had a good life. I mean, there's things I'd like this, I'd like that, but in the scheme of things,
you want anything looking ahead? I mean, come on, you're going to be around
not really, a while. Not really. You know,
satisfied.
I mean, the temporal things are, I mean, they're okay, but not that big a deal. I think I got my health, I got a good family, and really, man, that's like I say, that's all you need.
Yeah,
that's all you need. You know?
Yeah, great advice.
The rest rubs off. Yeah.
So where can we find you?
Where can we what?
Where can we find you?
I want carpeting.
They want carpeting.
Oh, if you just just look up Floor Covers International and Carry on the web. I got a good website.
All right.
And anybody wants to take a look, I'll be happy to call them.
Fantastic.
Should just call them to have them come out and hang for a while.
Yeah.
It'd be fascinating to talk to.
Yeah.
And Jim, I know that you have a website as well.
50cupstea.com, everybody. Limited supply left, so order up. Thank you again, Marty, for being here today.
Oh,
It's
listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope I haven't talked your heads off here with all my stuff going on, but it's been a great conversation. But I am what I am.
That's it.
That's it.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Hot Takes 50 Cups. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to visit our website at 50cupstea.com for more great content and delicious organic teas, and listen and watch us on all the leading platforms. Stay connected with us on Instagram at 50cupstea, YouTube, and TikTok. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends. Until next time, keep sipping and stay united.